My name is Riley, 30, living with my little daughter Emily, who just turned 7. I once thought that no matter how harsh life could be, as long as I had Emily by my side, I'd be strong enough to get through anything. But I was wrong. Not because I wasn't strong enough, but because some people I thought would lift me up were the very ones pushing me into the deepest abyss. I work as an ER nurse at St. Helena Hospital in Oregon. The endless white nights, the wailing ambulance sirens, the sobs of patients' families, all forged me into a woman who seemed fearless. Yet, I could never have imagined that my own family would be the nightmare that never ended. My parents, Leonard and Susan, always wore perfect masks in public. Everyone who met them praised, "The Leonards are such a model couple, what a happy family." They poured their hearts out. To my younger sister Olivia and her 2 kids, Jackson, 9, and Chloe, 5, I was nothing more than a faint shadow on the sidelines. Since we were kids, Olivia always got everything. The expensive princess dress, the sparkling birthday parties, the earliest Christmas gifts. I would hide in the corner, quietly celebrating my birthday with a cheap cake Mom hurriedly bought. Even when we grew up, nothing changed. Olivia married early to a successful lawyer and had 2 adorable kids. My parents treated Olivia like a gem, while Emily and I were nothing but specks of dust. I'm not the kind who likes to complain. Becoming a single mom at 23, I learned to swallow my tears and move forward so Emily wouldn't lack love. Emily's father walked out the moment he learned I was pregnant, vanishing like the wind. Instead of comforting me, my family coldly said, "Who told you to be so foolish? Now deal with it yourself." But for my child, I stayed strong. Working as an ER nurse is stressful. I often took evening or overnight shifts running from 8 p.m. to 7 a.m. When Emily was little, I nearly went crazy because no one would babysit. I hired every type of sitter, but none lasted more than a few days, quitting because of my unpredictable schedule. Every time I called my parents, my mother's voice would drip with irritation. "This again, Riley? Can't you figure something better out?" My father would only sigh tiredly, as if I'd just asked them to give up their lives. But it was completely different for Olivia. If she said, "Mom, Dad, Jackson has a fever, I need to go out for medicine," they'd rush over, cradling him, comforting him, cooking soup. Whenever Olivia had meetings, my parents gladly picked up Jackson and Chloe from school and even crafted handmade cards for Teacher Appreciation Day so Olivia could look good in front of other parents. When Emily was 5, she had a severe allergic reaction to cashews and needed emergency care at midnight. I called my parents in a panic, but they bluntly replied, "We're already asleep. Deal with it yourself." I had no choice but to speed to the hospital, praying she'd be saved in time. Even so, I never stopped hoping. Emily needed her grandparents, and I needed help so I could keep working to support us. Even knowing my parents' hearts belonged to Olivia and her kids, I still didn't want Emily to grow up without a sense of family. So when St. Helena Hospital faced a severe flu outbreak, I had no other choice. My voice trembling, I called my parents, begging them to watch Emily for a few nights so I could help save patients. "Please, I have no one else." I heard uncomfortable murmurs on the other end, then my father's voice. "Fine, but remind the kid not to cause trouble and bring everything she needs. This house doesn't have toys for kids anymore." I thought that was the last glimmer of hope, but I didn't know that behind their fine lay the beginning of a nightmare. I thought if I prepared everything meticulously, it would be okay. That afternoon, I packed it all. Emily's stuffed bear she hugged every night, the fairy tale books she adored, the allergy spray, and a detailed schedule of her daily routine. I wanted my parents to know Emily wasn't a burden. She just needed a little love. At 6 p.m., I drove Emily to my parents' brightly lit house, the lawn as meticulously trimmed as always. Emily hesitated, clutching my hand, and asked softly, "Mom, if I'm good, will Grandma and Grandpa like me?" That innocent question stabbed my heart like a knife. I bent down, stroking her hair. "You're already wonderful. You don't have to try to be loved." My parents opened the door with expressions cold as winter wind. My mother glanced at Emily, then looked at me sharply. "Bring her things in quickly, Riley. We're busy." I forced myself to stay calm. "It's only 3 nights," I told myself. I hugged Emily tightly before leaving, whispering, "I'll be back to get you as soon as I can, okay?" The next 3 overnight shifts felt like hell. I worked 12 hours straight, caring for dozens of severe flu cases with a skeleton crew. My phone stayed eerily silent. No messages, no calls from my parents. I kept reassuring myself. No news must mean everything's okay. But on the 4th morning, while changing in the hospital locker room, my phone rang urgently. It was Redwood Elementary, Emily's school. "Ms. Riley, this is Miss Morgan in the school office," the teacher's worried voice cracked. "Emily didn't come to class this morning and no one called to report an absence. We've tried reaching her grandparents, but no one answers." My heart pounded so hard it felt like it would burst. I immediately called my parents. Each ring dragged on forever before switching to voicemail. I dashed to the parking lot without changing out of my scrubs, only throwing on a lab coat. During the 20-minute drive to my parents' house, I kept redialing, but the silence was deafening. When I slammed on the brakes in front of the house, the eerie stillness felt wrong. My dad's black SUV and my mom's blue sedan were both gone. I rummaged for the spare key, unlocked the door, and stepped into an empty house. The sofa was perfectly neat. Not a single sign Emily had ever been there. I called out, voice shaking, "Emily, where are you?" The only answer was the ticking of the clock. On the kitchen counter, a neatly placed note sat waiting. I picked it up, hands trembling. My mother's stiff handwriting was unmistakable. "Riley, sorry, but we can't watch Emily any longer. We've arranged for temporary care. Please contact Child Protective Services if you need more information. Susan and Leonard." My legs gave out beneath me. I hurriedly dialed Oregon Child Protective Services. After 3 transfers, an employee named Linda confirmed, "Yes, we just took in Emily right last night. The person who brought her claimed to be the legal guardian but could no longer care for her due to an emergency and stated the mother was indefinitely out of contact." "What?" I nearly screamed, tears welling up. "I'm Emily's mother. I just worked night shifts for 3 days. They aren't guardians, they were only babysitting." Linda lowered her voice with sympathy. "I understand you're in shock, but we have to verify your identity and the situation before releasing Emily back to you." I felt my heart drop as I heard the address of the foster home where Emily had been placed. A temporary care family in the suburbs of Salem, nearly 60 miles away. As I spiraled into self-blame for trusting too easily, a chilling thought crossed my mind. My parents had planned this. We'd only spoken a few days earlier. How could they have arranged to turn Emily over to authorities so quickly? As I was still reeling, a notification lit up my phone screen. Olivia had just posted a photo on Instagram. My heart clenched as I saw the picture. My parents, Olivia, Jackson, and Chloe, all beaming on a Hawaiian beach, cocktails in hand, wearing bright floral shirts. The caption read, "Amazing family. Happiness is cherishing moments together. Aloha from Maui." The post's timestamp matched perfectly with the time Emily had been placed in foster care. This wasn't an accident, nor a last-minute decision. It was a betrayal meticulously planned. They had calculated to remove Emily from their lives, freeing themselves to play in their tropical paradise. I threw my phone onto the couch, my body shaking with fury and despair. My daughter, the child I had spent my youth protecting, had been left with strangers because my parents didn't want any baggage on their dream vacation. I wiped my tears, took a deep breath, and told myself, "Emily, I won't let anyone take you from me. No one." I grabbed my car keys and rushed out, determined to get my daughter back at any cost. The drive from my parents' house to the CPS office took over an hour, but it felt like an eternity. I kept having to pull over because my hands were shaking so badly, and tears blurred my vision. My mind wouldn't stop screaming, "Where is Emily? Is she scared? Does she think I abandoned her?" The CPS office was inside an old red brick building. As I stepped in, a chill ran down my spine. Posters everywhere encouraged safe families, happy children. But now they felt like a cruel joke. A young receptionist led me to a small room with frosted glass windows. The silence was broken only by the ticking clock, mocking my helplessness. About 20 minutes later, a middle-aged woman in a knit cardigan walked in. She introduced herself. "I'm Mrs. Helen, the caseworker handling Emily's file." Her voice was soft, but her eyes were wary. "Ms. Riley, we need to verify some information before you can see Emily." "Where is she? I want to see her right now," I heard my own voice cracking. "Please calm down," Mrs. Helen said, flipping through the file. "According to the documents, Leonard and Susan Wright stated you were indefinitely out of contact. They claim to be Emily's legal guardians." "That's a lie," I clenched my fists. "I'm her mother. I was only gone 3 nights, working life-saving shifts at the hospital. They're just grandparents. They have no guardianship rights." Mrs. Helen looked up, her gaze softening as she saw my raw desperation. "Do you have paperwork proving your legal custody?" I rifled through my purse, pulling out copies of the birth certificate, hospital records, and school invoices in my name. I shoved each document toward Mrs. Helen like I was shouting that I hadn't abandoned my child. Her eyes scanned each page, nodding slowly. "This is important. We'll start verifying immediately." My phone buzzed suddenly. A message from Olivia? A line that nearly made me smash the phone against the wall. "Just relax. Mom and Dad just wanted a little break. Emily will be fine. Why are you blowing this out of proportion?" I couldn't believe Olivia still thought this was a no big deal. My daughter had been left with strangers, her fragile little heart thrown into unnecessary panic, all because they wanted a break. About 30 minutes later, Mrs. Helen returned with a young woman with her hair tied up, a name tag reading, "Caseworker Julia." Julia gently said, "We've contacted Redwood Elementary, Emily's family doctor, and St. Helena Hospital. Everyone confirmed you are her sole mother. We sincerely apologize for the misunderstanding." Julia sat beside me, voice soft. "Emily told us her grandparents said, sometimes moms don't come back because they're too busy before they dropped her off. We're very sorry we couldn't verify sooner." Every word from Julia felt like a knife carving deeper into me. They had planted the fear of abandonment in Emily's mind. They twisted the truth into a nightmare. And I realized this wasn't a simple family dispute. It was a calculated betrayal. As I sat with Julia, signing a mountain of paperwork to bring Emily home, Mrs. Helen whispered, "They left a fake contact number. All the records show they were trying to avoid responsibility. If you want to press charges, this is your evidence." I clutched the stack of papers, rage burning inside me. I wouldn't let Emily grow up believing she was worth less. I wouldn't let them keep destroying her just to feed their selfishness. But I knew that to protect Emily, I needed to prepare carefully, strategically. I couldn't rely on anger alone. A legal battle was coming, and I couldn't afford to lose. The sky was turning to evening as I signed the final form, my hand numb. Julia stood beside me, eyes encouraging. "All the paperwork is done. But Emily is currently in temporary care with a foster family at a house near Silverton. Do you want me to come with you?" "I'll go right now," I replied firmly, heart pounding. I can't let her wait another minute. Julia called ahead to the foster family to let them know. I drove like I was in a trance, but inside I'd never felt clearer. I wouldn't let anyone make Emily doubt my love for her. The foster home appeared after 40 minutes of driving, a 2-story, pale blue wooden house surrounded by lavender. My heart clenched seeing Emily sitting on the porch steps, head bowed, clutching her teddy bear with one torn ear. Mrs. Foster, a woman around 60 with salt and pepper hair, stepped out smiling when she saw me. "You must be Ms. Riley?" Her voice was warm, but I could still hear the faint edge of worry. "She's been waiting for you. She cried all morning, asking, 'Where's my mom?'" I moved quickly, almost running to Emily. When she looked up, eyes puffy but shining with hope, I dropped to my knees, arms wide. Emily flew into my embrace, sobbing, "Mom, you promised you'd come back. I was scared you wouldn't." I hugged her tight, feeling every shuddering breath. "I'm here, sweetheart. I promised, and I never break my promises." Mrs. Foster gently laid a hand on my shoulder, her voice kind. "She needs to hear that from you over and over. She was told you might never come back." I almost burst into tears hearing that. Who could plant such cruel words in a child's mind? While Emily ate the soup Mrs. Foster had made, I sat with Mr. Foster at the small kitchen table. He told me they dropped her off here last night, saying her mom had gone missing. She was terrified, kept crying, asking why you left her. I clenched my hands so tightly my nails dug into my palms, but I knew anger alone wouldn't save Emily. Only decisive action would protect her now. After finishing the paperwork with the Fosters, I carried Emily to the car. She gripped my hand tightly, eyes still shadowed with fear. "Will they take me away again, Mom?" she whispered, voice trembling. I kissed her forehead, answering firmly, "No one will take you again. I'll protect you with my last breath." Back at our apartment, I carried Emily to bed, letting her sleep safely in my arms. The soft yellow lamplight fell on her face, still tense. In that moment, I'd vowed she'd never be hurt again, no matter what it took, even if it meant facing my own parents. As Emily drifted off, I pulled out my phone, reading the messages Olivia had been sending all afternoon. "What are you doing? You're turning a small issue into a disaster. Mom and Dad are suffering because you're causing trouble. Stop blaming them just because you can't handle your own child." I felt numb. It was clear Olivia had known all along. She must have been complicit, maybe even orchestrating it. I remembered that Hawaii photo. Their bright smiles, colorful cocktails, the ocean breeze tousling their hair. Not one of them cared where Emily ate, slept, or how scared she was. My phone rang again, this time an unfamiliar number. I answered, and a deep male voice said, "Ms. Riley? This is Chief Daniels in Silverton. We've received the CPS report about Emily's case. I'd like to ask if you intend to press charges against your parents." That question cut through the storm of rage swirling inside me. I took a deep breath. I need a few days to help Emily settle emotionally, but yes, I want them held accountable. "You're doing the right thing, Riley," Daniel said slowly but firmly. "We'll coordinate with CPS, and if you proceed officially, we'll support the investigation." I set the phone down and looked back at Emily. She was sleeping peacefully, still clutching her teddy bear. I whispered to myself, the fight has just begun. But I wasn't afraid anymore. I had gotten my daughter back, and I would fight to the end. Not just to protect Emily from their Hawaii getaway, but to end the cycle of favoritism, emotional abuse, and lies that had haunted my family for far too long. After getting Emily settled at home, I quietly stood by the window, watching the thick night swallow the silent street outside. In my hand, my phone screen still glowed with Olivia's latest social media post. Their whole family under the Hawaiian sunset, cocktails raised, faces glowing with joy. I zoomed in on the photo, my heart tightening as I saw my parents, Leonard and Susan, smiling brightly, arms around Olivia, with Jackson and Chloe beside them. I tapped on the album section and scrolled down through the other photos. One showed the sign of a luxury resort in Maui with the caption, "We've been waiting for this day for a whole month, finally in paradise." I shivered. The phrase, "waiting for this day for a whole month," exposed them. This trip wasn't spontaneous, there was no "had no choice" or "just happened" excuse they could use. It was a carefully planned scheme, and Emily was just an obstacle they needed to clear, so they could enjoy their perfect vacation. Another photo posted 5 days ago, right before I dropped Emily off at my parents', a picture of Olivia sitting on the sofa with my mom, surrounded by open suitcases, swimsuits, flip-flops, and sunscreen. The caption read, "Packing day. Can't wait for a family escape." That image shattered every lie, revealing their shameless cruelty. I saved everything, screenshotting every post and each comment where Olivia gleefully bragged about the best thing is sharing special moments with family and Hawaii, our paradise. Meanwhile, my Emily, just 7 years old, had to sleep under a strange roof, terrified that her mom no longer wanted her. As I scrolled through the comments, I saw a flood of congratulatory messages from their friends. "Oh, amazing! What an ideal big family! Olivia's kids look so happy! Wish I could have a family like yours." Each comment felt like a dagger straight into my chest. I couldn't believe everyone was fooled by their fake facade, while my daughter suffered so unfairly. I dug up an old message Olivia sent me 2 weeks earlier. It said, "Have you thought about finding someone else to watch Emily? Mom and Dad are getting old. I've noticed they seem really tired." I naively thought she was worried about our parents, but looking back now, I realized Olivia was planting the seeds for their plan to get Emily out of the way for their perfect vacation. Right then, my phone lit up with a message from my mom's number. "You're making this into something bigger than it needs to be. We'll talk when we get back. Don't ruin the rare days the family has together." I clenched the phone so hard my knuckles ached. They still thought this was just about family time, and that leaving my daughter in foster care was a small matter to brush aside. I couldn't sit still another second. I opened my laptop and created a folder named Hawaii Truth. I organized every screenshot with the timestamps of the posts, saving all the resort booking info Olivia had bragged about on Instagram's story. Room numbers, check-in and check-out dates, room rates. I discovered the flights had been booked 2 months in advance through Hawaiian Airlines, with the booking code clearly visible on the e-tickets Olivia had flaunted online. I saved posts from Olivia's friends mentioning planning the Hawaii trip for ages, enough to prove this was a long-conceived scheme. Just then, I heard Emily sobbing in the bedroom. I ran in and she murmured sleepily, "Mom, are you still here?" I held her tight, my voice cracking. "I'm here. I'll always be here." When Emily fell back asleep, I called Chief Daniels. "I have evidence my parents planned this trip in advance and intentionally abandoned my daughter. I need to start planning charges." "Excellent, Riley," he replied. "Evidence is key. Send everything to me by email. We'll work with the district attorney to verify and prepare a case." I hung up, telling myself, there's no turning back. I had seen their true faces. My own parents, willing to discard their granddaughter just to bask in blue seas and white sands? Before bed, I got another message from Olivia. "Don't ruin everything. You're always selfish. Mom and Dad just needed a break. If you keep this up, don't blame me." I let out a bitter laugh. They didn't realize these very messages would become evidence, forcing them to pay for their cruelty. I locked my phone, looked at Emily sleeping soundly, and felt more determined than ever. This battle now had a clear path, and I would fight to the end. In the days after bringing Emily home, I lived in a constant state of vigilance. Every time Emily woke up crying, screaming, "Mom, don't leave," I would hold her tight, reassuring her, "I'm here. I'm not going anywhere." But in her eyes, I still saw raw fear, like a wound refusing to heal. On the third morning after bringing her back, while I was making breakfast, Emily stood in the kitchen hugging her teddy bear, eyes red. She asked softly, voice trembling, "Mom, if I'm not good, will you leave me like Grandpa and Grandma said?" My heart felt like it was being crushed. I knelt down to her eye level, looking deep into her confused eyes. "No, Emily. No matter what, I will never leave you. You are the most precious thing in my life." But no matter how many times I reassured her, she often stayed silent, her eyes distant. I realized Emily needed more than my love to heal. I had to help her understand that it wasn't her fault. It was the adults who had forced her into this fear. That afternoon, I scheduled a meeting with Ms. Aria, a well-known child psychologist in Salem. Her office was decorated with colorful animal paintings, shelves of teddy bears, and dinosaur models. Ms. Aria sat down, her voice soothing like a lullaby. "Hi, Emily. Here, any feelings you have are okay. There are no bad feelings, all right?" Emily nodded faintly, but her hands clutched her teddy bear so tightly they turned white. I sat beside her, my heart shattering as I heard Emily speak. "They said you didn't want me anymore. They told me you wouldn't come back. I don't want to make you sad, but I'm scared you'll forget me like they said." I couldn't stop the tears from spilling over. Ms. Aria placed a comforting hand on my shoulder, speaking softly. "Riley, this isn't your fault, nor is it Emily's, but if not addressed properly, those words could leave lasting trauma. I recommend you enroll Emily in regular therapy sessions so she can learn to understand it wasn't her fault." As we left the clinic, I held Emily's hand tightly, a storm of anger and determination swirling inside me. I wouldn't just heal my child. I would uncover the truth so she'd never have to live in fear of being abandoned again. Back home, I opened my laptop, neatly organizing every piece of evidence. Olivia's messages, the Hawaii posts, the travel bookings, and confirmations from CPS. I saved each file in separate password-protected folders. That night, when Emily was sound asleep, I called my old college friend Erica, a lawyer who had shifted her practice to children's rights. After I told her everything, Erica was silent for a moment, then spoke firmly. "Riley, this is no longer a private matter. They've committed serious violations of child protection laws. They lied to CPS, deliberately fabricated guardianship documents, and inflicted emotional harm on Emily." "If I sue, will I win?" I asked, my voice trembling. "Your evidence is strong. More importantly, pursuing this will protect your child from future harm and prevent them from repeating this behavior. I'll help you prepare the case right away." I hung up, feeling like the storm inside me had finally found a path forward. But I also knew that if I sued, it would ignite a fierce family battle. Was I ready for that? I turned to look at Emily sleeping soundly, her breathing steady, her teddy bear still in her arms. The answer was clear. For Emily, I couldn't back down. The next morning, I took Emily to school. When her teacher saw her, she knelt down and gave her a gentle hug. "Everyone here missed you so much, Emily. I'm so glad you're back." Emily gave a shy smile. The first, since everything happened. It was small, but it felt like a beam of light piercing through the darkness, giving me strength. When I got home, I received an email from Erica. "Riley, I've drafted the preliminary lawsuit. I recommend filing this week. Child Protective Services is also ready to provide statements. They're furious about the grandparents' deception." Reading those words made me stand taller. The battle had officially begun. But this time, I wasn't just a lone mother. I had a lawyer, CPS on my side, and most importantly, the truth. I promised myself, Emily will know that her mother will fight to the end to protect her. No one has the right to steal her safety, trust, or childhood, even if they're family by blood. That Thursday afternoon, just as I picked Emily up from school, my phone rang. On the other end, Chief Daniels spoke gravely. "Riley, we've presented the case to the Oregon State Prosecutor and received authorization to coordinate with the Maui Police Department. They'll approach your parents in Hawaii tonight, local time." I gripped the phone, my heart pounding like it would burst from my chest. All those days gathering evidence, all those sleepless nights searching for justice, now it was all set in motion. But worry also grew. Would they deny everything? Try to slip away from accountability? Late that night, I sat in front of my laptop on a video call with Chief Daniels and Detective Kimura from the Maui Police Department. On my screen, Kimura's serious face appeared, with the hallway of the Waikiki Royal Hotel, where my parents were staying, visible behind him. "We've checked the booking records. Leonard and Susan Wright are indeed in room 1507, checked in 4 days ago. Their reservation was made 2 months in advance, perfectly matching the evidence you sent, Kimura confirmed firmly. I swallowed hard, glancing at the clock. It was 7 a.m. in Hawaii. The perfect time to catch them off guard. A body cam feed from one of the officers with Kimura streamed to my screen. I watched 3 officers walk up and knock on room 1507's door. Moments later, my father opened it, wearing a fancy bathrobe, his face freezing when he saw the police. "Mr. Leonard Wright," Kimura spoke. "We need to talk about allegations of child abandonment, providing false information to authorities, and deliberately creating circumstances that emotionally harmed a child." My father stammered. I don't understand. We just needed a break." I held my breath as my mother appeared behind him, her face drained of color, her voice shaking. "This is just a misunderstanding. Our daughter is blowing everything out of proportion." Kimura signaled 2 other officers forward. One carried a folder with printed evidence, photos of them on the beach, emails where Olivia boasted about the trip plans, CPS paperwork. I saw my mother trembling as she realized everything was in the police's hands. "We've gathered proof showing this trip was planned well in advance, not spontaneous or unplanned," Kimura stated clearly. "Leaving a minor child behind and traveling out of state without notice while lying to authorities is a serious offense." I couldn't tear my eyes away from the screen, feeling both furious and strangely alienated as I watched my parents, the very people who always preached upholding the family's image, now pale and speechless in front of the police. Right at that moment, the door to the next room swung open. Olivia appeared, wearing a silk nightgown, hair disheveled, with Jackson and Chloe trailing behind. Olivia practically screamed when she saw the police. "What's going on? Why are you here? You're ruining our vacation." Kimura turned to Olivia. "Mrs. Olivia Wilson, we also need your statement. According to the evidence, you knew about the plan to abandon Emily beforehand and participated in covering it up." "No!" Olivia lowered her voice, eyes darting quickly. I only knew that Riley left Emily with our parents. I wasn't involved." But Kimura coldly presented printed copies of Olivia's texts to me, along with her posts bragging about the Hawaii plan. I saw Olivia go pale. Jackson and Chloe's eyes grew wide as they looked at their mother and grandparents, filled with fear and confusion. "We will question each of you separately," Kimura stated firmly. "If we confirm intent to abandon a child, you will be extradited to Oregon to face charges under state law." Chaos unfolded, my father flailed, my mother sobbed uncontrollably, and Olivia shouted. "You don't understand, my sister is always selfish, Emily is a burden, we just wanted some time for our real family." Those words were like the final stab. I sat, frozen, eyes locked on Olivia, the sister I once thought would always stand by me. Now she had revealed her true face, right in front of the police and her own children, who looked stunned and devastated. The officers quickly checked IDs, confiscated passports, and secured the hotel room. Kimura turned back to the camera, looking straight at me. "Riley, we will keep them in Hawaii for several days to complete the investigation. After that, they will be transported back to Oregon to coordinate with CPS and the prosecutor's office." I collapsed into my chair, feeling both empty and relieved. At last, justice was beginning to show itself. But I knew this was only the first step. I had to stay strong because Emily needed a mother willing to face the truth, no matter how painful it was. The next morning, as I prepared breakfast for Emily, my phone rang over and over. Olivia's name flashed on the screen. I answered, and before I could speak, her angry voice burst out. "Are you happy now? You've ruined everything. This vacation was supposed to be a family memory. Now it's a nightmare. Mom and Dad are crying nonstop. Jackson and Chloe are terrified." I gripped the phone, taking a deep breath to stay calm. "Olivia, what vacation? This so-called family memory you're talking about was your excuse to abandon Emily? Do you even understand how scared she was? Olivia shrieked. Don't blame me. You always play the victim. Don't you care about mom and dad? They're old. They deserve to enjoy life. You're selfish, always making a scene just to get attention. The cruel words pelted me like hailstones. I closed my eyes, picturing Emily's terrified eyes the night she was left behind, then opened them, my voice firm. Mom and Dad do deserve rest, but not by sacrificing Emily. You knew about this from the start and you have to take responsibility too. On the other end, Olivia was silent for a moment, then shouted, You'll regret this. You've destroyed everything. From now on, don't expect any help from this family. The long beep of a disconnected call echoed as Olivia hung up. I sighed, pain flooding my chest. Deep down, I still hoped our sisterly bond wouldn't break forever. But in that moment, I understood. Blood doesn't guarantee love if it's clouded by selfishness and lies. That night, I got an unexpected call from Aunt Layla, my mom's younger sister, whom I'd barely seen. Her voice was raspy but warm. Riley, I heard what happened. I'm sorry I haven't stepped in before, but what you're going through, I understand better than you think. Understand? I asked, leaning back against my chair in surprise. Aunt Layla let out a soft sigh, the sound of papers rustling as she adjusted the phone. When your mom and I were kids, she was always the favorite. Our parents treated her better, and she learned that pattern, repeating it with you and Olivia. You're not the only one who's suffered. I sat, stunned. Memories of being pushed aside whenever Olivia needed something, hearing phrases like, "You're not as good as your sister," or "Your sister makes us proud," all came flooding back, now fitting together into a clear picture. This wasn't a one-time mistake, but a deep-rooted cycle passed through generations. I left home early to escape that toxic cycle, Aunt Layla continued, her voice dropping. But I never forgot about you. I'd been watching from afar, but didn't dare interfere when I saw you still trying to hold on to the family. I swallowed hard. All this time, I'd blamed myself for not being good enough, for not deserving my parents' love, never realizing the problem was with them, not me or Emily. Is there anything you'd like to do to help? I asked, my voice hoarse with emotion. If you want to bring this to court, I'm willing to testify. I know your mother's personality and actions well, and I won't stay silent anymore, Aunt Layla said, her tone resolute. Hearing those words, I felt a ray of light pierce through the darkness of despair. For the first time, I didn't feel alone. I had Emily, I had my lawyer Erica, I had Aunt Layla, I had the truth, and now I finally had support. That night, as Emily fell asleep in my arms, I received an email from Erica. Riley, I just got word that the Maui Police Department completed their preliminary questioning. Olivia is trying to deny her role, but the text evidence between you and her makes her denials meaningless. The prosecutor is recommending we indict Olivia as well if you agree to add her to the charges. I read it over and over, each word etching determination deeper into my heart. As painful as it was, I knew forgiveness wasn't an option. If I didn't stop them, they would keep hurting Emily or other children. I replied to Erica. Add her to the charges. I want everyone involved to be held accountable, including my sister. As I hit send, it felt like a weight had been lifted from my shoulders. Outside the window, the night sky sparkled with stars. I whispered, Emily, I promise I'll protect you until the end. And I knew I would keep that promise with every ounce of a mother's strength. The trial took place on a gloomy Monday morning, dark clouds hanging low as if mirroring the tense atmosphere inside the Marion County Courthouse. I held Emily's hand tightly as we stepped into the grand hall, filled with dozens of onlookers, local reporters, and social workers quietly observing. Up front, my parents sat beside their defense attorney, their faces gaunt, clothes neat but betraying their disarray. Olivia sat a few rows away, head bowed, avoiding my gaze. Aunt Layla sat next to me, her hand resting gently on my shoulder, lending me strength. When Judge Burton entered, the courtroom fell completely silent. Her voice was low but clear. Today we are hearing the case of Mr. Leonard Wright, Mrs. Susan Wright, and Mrs. Olivia Wilson on charges of child abandonment, providing false information to authorities, and causing emotional harm to a minor. My attorney Erica stood, presenting a thick stack of files. Your Honor, we have ample evidence proving the defendants planned in advance, intentionally placing Emily in a dangerous situation to travel freely while lying to Child Protective Services to avoid responsibility. My father hung his head, my mother trembled as she wiped away tears. But Olivia suddenly lifted her head, her voice nearly pleading. I didn't know things would go this far. I thought it was just a temporary solution so Mom and Dad could rest. Judge Burton stared directly at Olivia, her voice icy. But you received desperate messages from your sister when Emily disappeared, and you ignored them, even blaming her instead of helping. That shows you were aware, but chose to support wrongdoing. The entire courtroom was silent. I squeezed Emily's hand as she pressed herself closer to me, eyes wide with worry. The judge continued reading the charges, listing a mountain of evidence: photos, texts, statements from CPS, the psychologist, and even Olivia's own social media bragging posts. Finally, after over 3 hours of questioning, the judge delivered the verdict. Given the deliberate act of child abandonment, false reporting, and noting the defendant's lack of prior criminal records, this court sentences Leonard Wright, Susan Wright, and Olivia Wilson each to 12 months of probation, 200 hours of community service at the local Child Protection Center, and 6 months of mandatory family counseling. Whispers rippled through the courtroom. I exhaled deeply. Though probation seemed light compared to the pain Emily endured, having them serve community service where they'd face children needing protection was a harsher lesson than any prison sentence. The judge turned to me, her voice stern yet compassionate. Riley Wright, do you have any requests regarding the defendant's contact with your daughter? I straightened my shoulders and raised my head. Your Honor, I request that any meetings between Emily and her grandparents or Aunt Olivia be supervised by a social worker. If they fail to comply, I request the right to prohibit all contact. The judge nodded. A reasonable request granted. Supervised visitation will be required for at least 18 months, and any changes must have confirmation from Emily and her psychologist. That ruling felt like a heavy boulder lifted from my chest. I turned to Emily and gave her a reassuring smile. She hugged me tightly, eyes shining with the trust I'd once feared was lost forever. As the court adjourned, people began to leave their seats. My parents avoided my gaze, and Olivia tried to rush over, but I held up my hand, keeping my distance. I spoke softly but firmly. Take care of your responsibilities. Let time and your actions prove what comes next. Outside the courthouse, Aunt Layla grasped my hand. You've done what many in this family were too afraid to do for years. I'm proud of you, Riley. I looked at her, tears welling up. For the first time in years, I truly felt what it meant to have real family by my side. That day, I brought Emily home, getting her ready for her next therapy session. On the way, she turned to me and asked, Mom, do Grandma and Grandpa still love me? That innocent question left me speechless. I hugged her gently and replied, They might love you in their own way, but I will always love you the way you need, and I will never let you be afraid again. The soft afternoon sun stretched over the road ahead of me and Emily, like a new beginning. Even knowing there were more challenges ahead, I believed that this time we wouldn't have to walk alone. The weeks after the trial felt like a half-awake dream. During the day, I buried myself in work. At night, Emily and I slowly returned to our old routines. Bedtime stories, playing shadow-guessing games, watching the star projector on the ceiling. At first, she would still flinch whenever I stood up to leave the room. Her eyes filled with fear, as if to ask, Will you come back? But little by little, that fear began to fade. One night, after the 10th therapy session, Emily pulled my hand and whispered, Mom, I know you'll always come back to me. I hugged her tightly, feeling the shattered pieces inside me start to mend. Around that time, I received an email from the director of St. Helena Hospital. Riley, we'd like to appoint you as head coordinator of the emergency department. Your crisis management, determination, and compassion have inspired the entire staff. We are very proud of you. I nearly dropped my phone. This position wasn't just a career reward, it meant a more flexible schedule, giving me more time with Emily. When Emily turned 8, I decided to throw her a warm birthday party. Not a lavish event with hundreds of guests like Olivia used to host for Jackson and Chloe, but a peaceful afternoon in our backyard, surrounded by people who truly loved Emily. By the star-shaped birthday cake, Emily beamed with joy among those who had helped us weather the storm. Aunt Layla, who never turned her back, Erica, the steadfast lawyer, Aria, the patient child psychologist, Sheriff Daniels, and Miss Morgan, her teacher from Redwood Elementary. They were the family Emily and I chose, not just a blood family in name only. In the middle of the party, Olivia appeared at the gate, holding a silver-wrapped gift, her face a mix of shame and sorrow. I looked at my younger sister, who had once only blamed me, and gave a slight nod. Olivia stepped forward, knelt in front of Emily, her voice trembling. "I'm so sorry, Emily. I was wrong. I didn't protect you like I should have. I'll try to change, if you'll give me a chance." Emily glanced at me, eyes questioning. I nodded softly, and she reached out to Olivia, whispering, "If you don't leave me again, I'll forgive you." In that moment, I knew Emily was stronger than anyone could have imagined. As for my parents, after mandatory family counseling sessions, my father started to show genuine remorse. During one session, his voice shook as he said, "Riley, I'm sorry. I was so focused on chasing the perfect family that I forgot about my granddaughter's safety and happiness." Tears rolled down his face, the man I once thought incapable of crying. My mother, meanwhile, still clung to phrases like, "I only wanted what's best," or "I didn't mean to." But faced with the psychologist's firm guidance, she began to listen quietly instead of immediately deflecting blame. I knew her journey to acceptance would be long, but at least I had set clear boundaries. Any contact with Emily would require my and the social worker's approval. The evening after Emily's birthday, we sat on the grass under the moonlight, Emily resting her head on my shoulder and whispering, I like today's birthday better than those big parties with strangers. I just want to be with people who love me." I smiled softly, kissing her hair that still smelled of kids' shampoo. "That's what real family is, Emily. Family isn't just blood. It's the people who love you, protect you, and never leave you behind." Looking up at the star-filled sky, I felt every old wound transform into strength. We were no longer a lonely mother and daughter. We had found our chosen family. People ready to catch us when we fell, who showed me that love comes not from titles, but from respect and sincerity. And I knew no matter what challenges lay ahead, Emily and I had each other, and a real family. We would never let old fears steal her smile again. My journey with Emily taught me a simple but profound truth. Family isn't defined by blood, but by those willing to love and protect you unconditionally. In reality, too many children are hurt by the very people who should care for them most. What matters is that we, as parents or adults, dare to stand up and set boundaries to protect kids, because their safety and happiness must always come before pride or a good family image. What do you think of Riley and Emily's story? Share your thoughts or feelings in the comments, and don't forget to follow the channel for more meaningful stories about family bonds and overcoming life's storms.